Hi, everybody. My name is Paige Lee, and I am the one of the co-founders of Transcending Grief. And it is March 14th, and this is our member spotlight, which I love that we're doing this series where we have the opportunity to introduce one of you to the rest of our membership, to really highlight the wins that you had on your own grief journey. Did you write a book? Did you do something big that can contribute to, grieving people as a whole? Or perhaps you help people more on a one-on-one basis, or perhaps you just get the most amazing signs and synchronicities from your loved one and you want to share that with people. Whatever that is, we want to hear from you. We want to showcase you. I try to do these once a month, and super excited to have Mary Connaughty. Is it Connaughty? Connaughty?
No, it's kind of tea.
Connaughty. So Mary Connaughty here with us today. Sorry about that, Mary. I should have asked you that ahead of time.
Right.
Anyhow, Mary is a member of Transcending Grief. Her son, Aaron, moved ahead of her to Spirit 14 years ago. Or will it be 15 this year?
It was
15 this year.
14 on May 31st.
Okay, 14 years, so almost as long as I've been on the journey, so which feels like forever, doesn't it? It's you get to this point in the journey and it's sometimes hard to remember then, but of course we'll never forget then. Anyhow, I'm gonna read Jill's bio to you, or I mean Mary, sorry. I just let Jill in the room. And then we'll get started and we'll hear her story and all of the wonderful things that she's gonna share with us today. So when I asked, her bio says, when asked to provide biographical info, Mary's first sentence typically is, I'm a mom, right? Who doesn't love that? I'm a mom. To say that Aaron was and is important to her is an understatement. She considers him her foremost gift and trusts that in providing his and her story to readers, they too will receive a gift. Mary grew up in a small Midwestern town and enjoyed an active outdoor life during an era when life was slower and simpler. A self-described lifelong learner, Mary was encouraged and unrestricted by her parents to read anything and everything that interested her. Her love for words, language, and stories persists to this day, which is evident in your book, I might add. After college, Mary spent 41 years in financial services, where she held roles in sales, leadership, and as an executive, leading learning and development teams for Fortune 500 firms. She has a BA in psychology and has recently graduated with high honors from the Funeral Directors Program at Fayetteville, North Carolina. You have to tell us about that. Like, what led you to that? Was that after Aaron's passing, and how is that for you? Mary successfully completed all of her state board exams and became a licensed North Carolina funeral director in September of last year. Mary lives on a small farm in North Carolina with her husband, 3 beautiful horses, 3 dogs, and 3 cats. So welcome. And this is Mary's book, Nudges from the Other Side. And I did read most of this book, and I love it. It's kind of a combination of writing, right? Like you would just write a book, and journal entries from especially the first, 4 or 5 years, right? After Aaron's passing, and really interesting interactions that she had with some specific people. So I'll let her tell you about all of that, but the book is available on Amazon, probably any online bookseller that you prefer. And it's really a good book. It is a book of hope and healing, which, my book is as well. So I really could relate to so much of what you talked about in the book, Mary. So welcome. Welcome. And I just add anything you want to that bio. And we're just so thrilled that you're here. So I do want to tell everybody, just please pop into the chat any questions. I think we're going to open it up for discussion. But if you have any question regarding anything that Mary talks about, she or I will grab that and we'll make sure it gets addressed, because we want this to be an interactive kind of meeting, not an interview where we're just talking heads, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. Well, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much.
Wow.
And it's really good to see all of you out there. I am sorry that we're all on this journey and that we are in this club that none of us really wanted to be in. But as I always say to people, I think everyone is going to experience a significant loss in their life. It would be unusual to go through life and not to lose someone you love, albeit you never expect your children to go before you. And so thanks, again for having me here. I don't want to be in the club, but hey, if we've got to be in it, I just can be in it with lovely people like you. But really, before I began telling my story, I do want to mention my voice. So I have a really weird neurological, very rare neurological disorder, and it affects my voice. And so I just want to share with you, I'm not having an anxiety attack. I'm not having an asthma attack. I'm not crying. This is me every time I open my mouth. And people tell me that once they get used to the cadence of my voice, it's easy enough to understand me. But if you need me to repeat anything or you've got a question, do not hesitate to ask. I may not be able to read it without my glasses on, so I'll rely on you to help me with
Yeah,
that.
I got you on that. No problem.
All
Yeah.
right, so
Thank
thanks.
you.
So yeah, what led me to write? I think when we're faced with a significant loss, most of us feel like, maybe a laser beam just blasted us up against a wall. And we're like, I don't even know what to do. I don't know where to go. And I didn't plan for this. And so I'm knocked off my feet. And I was really no different. I was not a funeral director at the time. And I was in financial services. And so my life was on a very fast track. Aaron was 20 years old. I remember the weekend vividly. My husband and I were going away camping, and I said, "Hey, why don't you come over on Monday night to eat dinner?" And, like he always did at the end of every weekend. Well, this was Memorial Day weekend. And so I invited him for Monday night, and he agreed to do that. But unfortunately, on Monday morning of Memorial Day that year, um, he got in a car accident, and we don't know where he was going. We don't know why. He didn't bring his dog with him, which is amazing because his dog went everywhere with him. And now his 17-year-old dog lays here in my office with me. Oops, I can't see her real well, but she's here, and she is clinging on to life, 17 years old. But he didn't bring her with him, thank goodness. And so she became grandma's dog. And yeah, he was alone. He went off the road. He didn't hurt anyone else, and supposedly, lost his life and crossed over instantly. And so faced with this, overwhelming is too light of a word. You know what I'm saying. But faced with this overwhelming circumstance, I really, for once in my life, didn't know what to do. And everything everyone suggested didn't resonate with me. It probably even made me mad. He would have asked me, now, why are you doing that? Or why don't you go do that? Or come with me here, do this, do that. And one day, a work colleague called me and he said, how are you doing? And I said, I guess about like you can imagine, I'm just, I'm existing. And he said, listen, you do what you want to do when you want to do it. If you feel like working, work. If you don't feel like working, don't work. Just do what you need to do. And that's an unbelievable thing in and of itself because I worked at Bank of America, and no one at Bank of America tells you work when you feel like it and don't work if you don't feel like it. And I didn't take advantage of that or anything, but after he said those words, it was almost like an angel directed my head. And I looked over at my bookshelf. I was in my office, and sitting there on the shelf amongst myriads of books, was an empty journal. And I reached my hand over, I grabbed the journal, and I just began writing. And the day of Aaron's funeral, the most amazing things began happening. Things that divide black and white of the way the world works, things that literally defy physics and natural occurrences. And I wrote them all down. But I also wrote down the way that I was feeling and the way that I was dealing with things. And the words from others, whether it was somebody that just managed to say the right thing at the right time, on the right day, I wrote that down. I wrote excerpts from books. I even wrote down excerpts from the Bible that, for whatever reason, just appeared in front of me and just kept layering in all those events and unlikely things that were going on. And I guess it was maybe 3 or 4 years into it, I even wrote in there, someday I ought to put this in a book because I think my journey might be of help and comfort and peace, healing and hope to other people that are facing tremendous grief. And zoom forward, I think it was 12 years later, I got a break in the action of my career. And I said to my husband, I'm going to write the book. And I'm just a real goal-oriented person. I said, I'm going to begin in January. It's going to be done being written by June 30th, because for all intents and purposes, it was really already written because it was in a couple of journals that I had filled over the years, and I continue filling to this very day, even after I shut the manuscript and published the book. He got very active, and so I've got a lot of addendums in those journals as well.
Cool. So the
But I
next book.
said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write it. And so that was in 2023. I made my goal. I got it written by June. And then I began the process of figuring out how to publish a book, which I knew nothing about. I had written all throughout my career, but it's a different process in a corporation than it is when you're outside in the world looking to publish a book. And so my book launched on October 15th, which was just about 5 months ago. And you know what? To my utter astonishment, and I shouldn't have been astonished because I was actually told this was going to happen. It made bestseller list on Barnes& Noble's for the first 3 weekends of its existence. It didn't seem ahead of Britney Spears, but for a brief while, I was ahead of Arnold Schwarzenegger's book. And, now I spend maybe 5 hours a week doing marketing and book promotion, not because I'm in this for making money. In fact, all of the book sale proceeds are going to charity. But the reason why I do that is I just feel this urge to get it out in the world, get it into the hands and the hearts of the people that can use those words of healing and comfort, and just, my introspection on this unwanted journey.
That's awesome. Good for you. I love that. And congratulations being on the bestseller list. That's a big move. So,
Well, I'm not there anymore, but thank you. Yeah.
well, yeah, but you get to make that claim. So that's wonderful. Yeah, so here's the book again while we're talking about the book and the publication of the book. Okay, everybody see that? You see that, Babette? So anyhow, it's a wonderful book, and I know she's reading Many Lives, Many Masters in that picture way before Aaron. Well, I don't know how long before Aaron transitioned. So you were kind of already, thinking about these things, right? And that's a great book, by the way, Brian Weiss's book, Many Lives, Many Masters. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I really zero in on in the book, and you all may have felt it in your lives as well. And I continue to feel it every day, and that is a word known as synchronicity. When things happen that just mesh for whatever reason, I showed you guys the picture of Erin's dog lying here. She's really getting feeble. And this just happened a couple nights ago. She got us up in the middle of the night. She wasn't able to get up. She had gone to the bathroom on the floor, which happens a lot. And so anyway, I'm laying there at night thinking, I think I've got to schedule, euthanasia. And I don't want to do it. I don't like making those calls, but is she so uncomfortable that I can do the merciful thing, do this for her? And I remember lying there in bed, which is never a good time to make decisions, and literally flying into my head, which is what I call my whispers, which is maybe the other side speaking with us. You can say whatever you like, but they're there, those whispers, those intuitions. And I very clearly heard, don't think about it anymore tonight. Look at it in the morning when the sun is shining. And you know what? That morning, a repairman came over and she went with the other dogs and barked at him and just acted like, I'm still with it. And I knew that it wasn't time. And so I always say, watch for those synchronicities. You can even ask your loved ones, I'd love to hear from you, whether it be in a dream or, whatever your symbol for that individual is. Could it be a song, maybe a feather, maybe a coin? I don't know what it is, but just watch and trust, because I really do believe our loved ones surround us and they're there for us, albeit they can't touch us, but they can find ways, to let us know. And that's where that word nudges came from. I didn't even like the title of the book, but again, that was what my whispers told me. No, that's the name of the book. And so watch, open up, and ask, and I think it really will happen.
Oh, I love that so much. And yeah, nudges, whispers, downloads, people call it, messages. I think of like you, I think of that as spirit talking. And sometimes it is though a download, like if we were talking about automatic writing in our class Tuesday and how, we get that nudge to go write about something. And that's definitely spirit's voice giving us that idea to do that. Erin sent you feathers, I think. What else? What were some big signs that Erin sent you? Or do you want to talk
Yeah.
about that later?
No, we can talk about that right now. Really, Aaron's main symbol was a dragonfly. And so back in 2010, we never ever saw dragonflies until maybe around June, mid-June, late June. And the day of his funeral, I remember driving home from the cemetery and just sort of thinking, what now? And that was something that I was asking myself every day, what now? And I was really just sort of focusing on putting one foot in front of the other, and oftentimes one breath to the next, because, it was that bad. And that day when we drove home, we parked in the driveway and I glanced up, and literally right there in front of me on our vehicle was a beautiful dragonfly. And for whatever reason, I said to my husband, that's weird to see one this early in the season. Gee, I wonder if that's Aaron's, sort of symbol for us, because we ran a property known as Dragonfly Properties just because we liked the name. It didn't have any significance other
Oh my
than we liked the name.
gosh.
And
Wow.
boom, right there it was.
Uh,
And there's even a story in the book that I managed, I think, to squeak in there before it was published. And it was last year. Aaron's birthday is literally next week, his earthly birthday on March 20th. And last year on March 20th, when we've still got fairly cold weather in North Carolina. I got up on the day of his birthday. I glanced out the back window, and on the middle of the screen was a dragonfly.
Oh,
And I was like, oh my God, how can this even be here today?
yeah.
And this went on and on. Another one showed up a day later. And I wondered, how long is it going to stay? How can it even be living? Because it was still getting down in the 30s and 40s at night. And that little guy hung around. He would leave and come back. And it just felt like, hey, I'm here, and put that in the book.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I love those really big signs. I often say that, there's so many signs, right? We get so many signs, but every now and again you get that really big one like that. And I have so many stories too, that it's like, oh my gosh. And I would ride that high. Like as if I,
Yeah.
smoked dope, which I
Yes.
of course didn't do, but it's like I would ride that high for weeks sometimes because that
Right.
would be it would be so big and so uplifting. And I know we all have those stories, but so I love that he came on his birthday and stayed. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
his
Yeah.
heavenly birthday. I call his passing date, thanks to some of my clients that came to one of my retreats last year. I now call the passing date because I never knew what to call it. I call
Mm.
it the spirit birthday. So I
Mm.
love that you just said his
Earth
what
birthday.
earthly birthday and
Yeah.
spirit birthday. So anyhow,
Yeah, that's right. It's both.
yeah, yeah. Well, the
Yeah.
passing
You
date you
want,
turn to spirit, right? And then they
right.
have
That's exactly right. It's
birthday.
both.
Yeah. Anyhow, go ahead, carry on.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that. I hadn't really thought about that before.
yeah, yeah.
But
It's
yeah, so Aaron's been very creative over the years. And really that's what the book is more about than the way I felt. I mean, it's important, to understand that other people feel a lot like you do, and that they go up and down like the stock market, on their grief journeys. I think that's really important. But stories are just amazing. And, almost like little lights on the Christmas tree, they were strung together and they did sustain me. And when I really needed him, I could ask, and I do talk to him all the time. I think of him 30,000 times a day still. Even though I feel good, like, I'm all right. And I'm hopeful for other people that, they too can survive and thrive after the death of a very significant loved one. I think it is possible. I think it's about our journey. I think it's about our soul contracts with one another. And, this never was not going to happen this way. I just forgot it when I entered into the world, and Aaron did too. But then, there you go. You live out your.
I love how you just said that. I just want to repeat that. So this was never not going to happen. You just forgot when you
Yeah.
came into your it. I love that because that is such a wonderful way to acknowledge the truth of that belief system, but also to allow it. There's freedom in allowing yourself to believe it because you just forgot. Like I already knew it, but I forgot. So that was really
Yeah.
well put. I like that. I'm gonna
Well,
write it.
and that idea meant a lot to me, in addition to all the creative ways in which he continually nudges me. And he had some mind-bending ones that if I have a minute, I'll share them with you. But, it finally dawned on me, thanks to the words of a woman that I met in New Jersey at a conference, that I didn't even know why in the devil I was there, because it was not resonating with me. And someone was gracious to send me there. And I went and I stood there in this audience. It was a Tony Robbins thing. And so if you've ever been, you're there with like 10,000 people or so. It's really ridiculous. And I was in the VIP section as a guest of Tony's, because I knew a friend who was very good friends with him. And he's like, you've got to go. This is going to help you. Well, he was right, but it wasn't Tony that helped me. It was just some woman in the audience that turned around during an exercise we were doing. And she said to me, you need to live out your soul contract with Aaron, and you need to do your end of the bargain. And for whatever reason, boy, that thought just slammed into my brain and down into my heart and into my soul and everywhere else. And I went, we recognize truth when we hear it. And I think that's what happened. And I mulled that over. I wrote it in the journal. You'll read it if you ever read the book. But from that day forward, I stopped a little bit lighter. And in each of these amazing quotes, the amazing experiences, and even my feelings all sort of congealed to light my path and get me on a journey where I could breathe again. I could give to other people again. And I could feel all right, knowing that although he isn't with me physically, and I won't get to do the mom's dance at a wedding someday, even though it's the way it was meant to be, and I've got some things that I can do, not only to enhance my own journey, but potentially help others. And
Exactly.
so there
And
you
Mary,
go.
I should say, Aaron was your only child, although
Yes,
you have a
yes.
stepchild or two. So I forgot to mention that earlier. So certainly I can relate to that, and I know others in this group today can as well. So.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have to ask because it's I have tell us about the candle and how it burst into flame,
That
please.
was a really good one. And
That
there's
was
so
what?
many amazing ones, but so I'll back up a little and say in 2012, my husband and I owned like a construction company, and that was my husband's job. I was in financial services. But you may remember what happened to the market in 2008 through really ostensibly 2012. And we were lucky. Everything went through. We were doing residential building, custom builds. Everything was fine. But when our last contract finished, we were like, we do not dare buy another piece of land and try to do this right now with everything going on. And we had a deep love for the land. And every time that we built, we tried to do it in a green, sustainable way, eco-friendly, etc. And so we were like, what can we do that would be with the land and allow us to continue helping people, but not be exposed to as much market risk. And for whatever reason, we both landed on the idea of why don't we build a cemetery? Like who says that? But this was 2 years into our grief journey, and our hearts were turning already with the knowledge that we wanted to do for others because we realized how knocked off of our own feet that we were. And so, therefore, if there was a way for us to ease other people's burdens, let's do it. And if we can meld that with a business that we're pretty good at and my husband loved doing, let's do it. And so our lots went from being 5 acres down to 6 feet by 3 feet because we bought an existing 30-acre cemetery only a few minutes from where we lived. We frankly didn't even know about it because it was ill-used, it was in bad repair. And so that's the way we jumped into that journey. And so zoom forward a few years later, we had invited all of our staff over and we were going to do dinner. It was the holidays or whatever. And I had candles on the table. And when we finished dinner, we began talking and we invited everyone to say, like, what does the business really mean to you? Because we were very fortunate in that a number of people came into the business that were doing it absolutely from the heart. And we insist on that. They wouldn't have stayed if they were not. But anyway, they all began talking about the business, and I just remember saying something about Aaron. And the minute that we began talking about Aaron, a candle on the table that had been burning brightly went out and smoke began rising up. And I let him remember was then speaking Finnish. And I said, hey, you guys, I just want to interject. Did anyone notice that when we began talking about Aaron, that candle that was burning helpfully all of a sudden went out? And they're like, yeah, we saw that. Right at that moment, the flame started up again. And then it went out again later. And so I'm here to say that I know that doesn't happen. That is not physics at its finest or ever. And it just was going in and out. And there was nothing wrong with the candle at all. But it was, just like that affirmation for everyone at the table that you guys are doing the right thing. And, like, thank you for doing it.
Oh, that's really cool. So that was the business of the cemetery?
Right.
Yeah,
So
okay.
then Zoom
Oh,
forward,
that was his endorsement then of that
I
venture and
think
that's kind of
so.
giving back in that way. So is that what led you to becoming a funeral director? Was
It is. It is.
okay.
We always said we are not going to do funerals at all. We're not.
Not.
Right. Absolutely not. Underscore capital letters not. However, 5 years later in 2017, my husband came home from work one day and he said, so we're going to go ahead and open a funeral home. And I was like, you are going to do this, aren't you? And he said, yes, but let me tell you why. And he would have backed down if I said no. But you know what? Over those years, and as I listened to everything, I think deep down we both knew that we could do better for the community by offering services without the money in the forefront, with being on the same side of the table as our clients and saying, we only want to help and we only want to do what you want to do, no more, no less.
Yeah.
And if you can dream it, we'll figure out a way to do it. And so we began building a funeral home in the middle of this now beautified 30 acres. Over the years, we have really upgraded everything, and it's beautiful out there. It truly is. And so that's when the funeral home idea began. Well, in March of 2020, we all remember what was going on then. Some of you may have had the sniffles or were on a ventilator, but that's when our funeral home doors opened up. And I had orchestrated my release from financial services. And so I had just been packaged out and I was free and clear. And my husband, Dan, said, why don't you come to work at the business? And I did. Originally, I was only going to do minor things like marketing, get it furnished, and da 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 da. But the more that I began meeting with people, the more I realized I just loved helping people, whether it's at the time of need or if they're planning in advance, which you all should do because then you won't make mistakes and it won't be as expensive. But yeah, so I said, all right, so here I go. I'm going to go get my funeral director's license at in my 60s at a time when many of us are thinking of winding down. So,
Yeah, I get that. The older I get, the busier I get. I don't know how to stop. I don't know
yeah.
how. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so back to Aaron and your journal entries and all of the amazing visits. Maybe talk about his visitations because
Mhm.
that's pretty cool. We don't all get that. I think that I had I know Brian came to me in a dream visitation. Well, my grandma came to me in a dream visitation before he died. I don't know if you've read my book, but that she came to warn me of what was getting ready to happen. But I
Wow.
didn't interpret it that way. I thought she was telling me I was going to die. I think most
Wow.
people here probably know that story. But and then Brian came to me one time, two times, one time in a dream and one time more in a lucid dream, and that I can remember. So, other than hearing his voice out loud and communicating with him, non-verbally as we do now, and through, the hugs that he sends energetically, right? Other than that, I haven't had visitations. So, I'm super curious for you to share with everybody about those, if you would like.
I would love to. I back then I didn't know what a visitation was. But I was always, and still am, a very vivid dreamer. I got up this morning and told my husband a very vivid dream that I had last night, and it was actually a funny one. But anyway, so I dreamt a lot all my life and remember them. And so after Aaron passed, I would go to bed with my heartache every single night. There were many nights when I would soak the pillow with tears thinking of him in the beginning. And I dreamt of him. And I dreamt of him a lot. And he was always the age of 9 or younger, not the young man that I knew when he left our earthly time. And so that was weird. But then one night, that dream was very, very different. It was where I woke up saying, I still feel like he's right here. And it was more visceral, more real. And that's the only way that I can sort of differentiate is that if and when you have a visitation, I think you feel the gravity of it in a very different way. And in the first one, Aaron came into the room and he gave me a hug and he said, "You were a good parent." And I always kind of wondered, was I or not really? Because I was the kind of mom that said when he was 14 years old, I think it's time that you can learn how to drive. And I literally let him drive, and then he nearly killed us. And I had him pull over and said, "Okay, school is going to teach you that one." But some things like that maybe weren't the best. But it's stuff that I wanted him to learn from me. I would expose him to and teach him, and give him the boundaries and tell him all about it. But it was so real, that feeling of having that embrace and hearing those words that didn't just hit my head, they sunk all the way into my heart and my soul. And it was very real feeling that you were a good parent. And I've had several others since then. I still dream of Aaron a lot. Just a couple nights ago, he finally was the older young man. And so he's active in so many different ways, dreams, visitations, different signs, the dragonflies, music. He manipulated music like you wouldn't believe and at the most amazing times. And so, yeah, that's what goes on.
The other thing about dream visits is, at least the couple that I've had, is that I can remember them today as if they just happened last night. So, and I
Mhm.
don't remember my dreams very well, but it's like you can remember every detail of being in that moment, in that dream. Can remember it's all just it's like a movie that's just playing, and
Mhm.
you don't
Yeah,
forget anything, right? So,
yeah,
whereas a
right.
dream, it kind of fades away and we forget about it throughout our day or right away when we wake up.
Yeah,
So. Um,
right, right. Well, and you
so
know what? It then began happening for me with others that crossed over. I can remember my very first visitation from my grandmother. And even back then, that was way before Aaron passed. And I knew that that was a visitation and not a dream because it was unbelievably real feeling and from my mom and from my brother. And, then when I hear other people speak of visitations and their nudges or signs, it just makes me realize that, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not insane. I know I didn't make any of these things up that I wrote about, but the fact that
yeah.
other people experience it as well just, makes me feel sure.
Right. Yes. Got you. Okay. So continue with your story. Tell us about like well, you really started your healing journey right away. And I know we all, we know that we're never healed perhaps, but it is a healing journey and that we, you've been on the journey a long time. So talk about, um, what was put in your path
Yeah.
to
I
help
think
you kind of keep moving down that road of healing.
Right. I think really that liberating conversation. And when I tell you that someone said, work if you want to, don't work if you don't want to do what you want to do. Like those are not really profound words by any means. But the fact that they came from such an extraordinary person in my life, and that they sunk in, they just resonated with me. And that was, again, what liberated me to really determine on my own what it was that I wanted to do and needed to do. And, freedom has always been very important to me. I moved out the minute that I was able. Not that I didn't like my mom and dad, I did, but I wanted my freedom. I wanted to be on my own. And so, no surprise that those liberating words were what really, grounded me. And, for me, it was examining my grief, examining my experience, and fully living it, not running from it, not rolling up in a ball, not denying it. I don't think there's anything wrong with those three things I just mentioned, but that was not my way of, choosing to deal with it. And so I think just kind of leaning in and kind of being like arms wide open and mind wide open, just laid on me. I mean, I didn't want any more pain. In fact, there's even one point in the book, if you read it, that you see I said something like, God, don't hurt me anymore. I can't take any more of this. But nonetheless, um, I think I and my husband both just decided that we were going to embrace this journey, whatever that meant. And we were going to lean in and experience it because that was our journey. That was what unfolded in our lives. And so it's there for a reason. And I usually don't even like that phrase when people say, oh, it happened for a reason. Um, but I do think we have these scripts, and it's our journey and our role to work through them, whatever that may mean.
Mm-hmm. Um, I used to have a graphic that I would often, throw around in my work that said, it was like, have you had enough pain? Like, have you had enough pain? And some of you people that have been with me a long time might remember that. Have you had enough pain? And I quit using it because it's kind of harsh, but it's like, because when we're early in grief, we can't imagine a day, right, where we're not in that level of pain. But it's true. What you're saying is true, that we can consciously choose that we're no more pain, right? Like, no, like, why we keep dropping into that place of pain and suffering when there is another choice in front of us, and that choice
Yeah.
is to choose life, right? Choose life, choose healing, choose to embrace the journey. I have a huge sign when I opened my healing center way back in 2010. Because of course I went out and learned all the things, right? Got Reiki certified, got grief recovery method certified, joined HPH, did all the things, and decided I'm going to teach it to everybody in my community, like you, which, that's great, right? That's part of our journey, right, Mary, is to do that for others. But anyhow, so I'm out like shopping at the vintage places and the used stores to find, stuff to put in this healing center. And I find on this wall, the old white frame that, with the glass, like an old window frame. And it inside somebody had typeset embrace, it's all about the journey, not embrace, but it's all about the journey. And I was like, oh my God, like I knew that was Brian sent, that was spirit sent. And it hung in my healing center along with some other cool things I found. And it's now in my bedroom. And I was so funny that you said embrace the journey, because I was just looking at it the other day. Like, how you don't see things that are in your home because they've been there forever. And I saw it. I woke up and I saw it because it's right there. And I was like, embrace the journey. Like, it's so important to do that. Well, it's all about the journey, because it really is. It's not about the fact that our loved one died. It's and what that does in our lives. It's what we choose to do with the time we have left that matters. And that's the journey, right?
Right.
It's all
Yeah.
the journey leading up to that. But at that point when they die, what we choose to do with our time after that, that's where the journey in grief and healing begins.
Yeah, and watch really for all of those synchronicities, because
Yes.
I don't think it's an accident that I said that and that you just happened to re-notice it. I just feel like, if we slow down enough and just kind of be in the present moment, that there's a lot more going on around us than we might ordinarily think.
Yeah.
And, we learn in life to be task oriented and to win and to work and to blah, blah, blah. But I think that what we've unlearned, because I think we enter life with it, is this ability to really lean into our intuition and listen to those whispers. And I do speak a little bit in the book about, what physics is just beginning to learn, with quantum physics and the fact that there is so much more going on around us that we're scratching the surface of. And I think someday we'll have more figured out. But there's a lot going on around us that we do not acknowledge and really shut the door on, because we unlearned some stuff that we were born knowing on her journey. And we can tap right back into that. That's what Reiki is all about, in fact, is
Which is
channeling
becoming more and more.
energy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, fine, fine, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just, and I said again the other day, it's like my new word is magic because everything's magical. Our journey can be full of grief and sadness and pain, or we can allow our journey to be full of magic and hope and laughter again when we're ready to
mhm.
make that choice, right? We have to be ready. It takes time to get to that place. But I tell you, this spiritual unfolding on the grief journey is a magical ride. It's a magical mystery ride.
Yeah,
That song,
it is.
magical
It
mystery,
is.
and it's fascinating. I love it. I love it. It's what got me out of bed in the morning. It's what enabled me to keep going every day, reaching for the next tool, reaching for the next knowledge. I never got in much into the oh, what's it, like the metaphysical stuff? Or that's not the right word. What's the word? Um, uh, like time travel and stuff like that. The science behind it all. That was never my thing. You're probably better at that than I am. But anyhow, there's so much to learn and discover, isn't there? So
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the idea of time traveling is interesting.
Quantum physics. That's the word I
Yeah.
was thinking of.
Physics, right, right, yes. But as you were talking, Paige, I was thinking it really reminds me of, scaling a mountain and being taken up to a new plateau that you maybe never wanted to be on, because the air is rarer. There's all sorts of problematic things going on in your environment. But when that happens, just as in our grief journeys, it kind of narrows your focus and it brings you into more of a sphere of yourself, and you're more alive, you're more present when your emotions are heightened than I think ever. And I think that in a way it allows us to operate at a higher level where more of those signs, more of those whispers and intuitions can come in.
Yep. Absolutely. The more we lean in and open to receive, the more we receive. And they're just waiting, right? And besides, especially in the early years, half of what they are sending we miss because we're grieving so heavily. And that's normal and natural, right?
Yeah.
I know we're gonna come up on the hour. I want you to finish whatever you wanted to say, and then I'd love it if you'd share a little bit about your horses because
Okay.
I know you're an equestrian, and I can only imagine. I know there's a lot of programs out there where horses really do help people who are grieving heal through the
Yeah.
work that people do with them. But anyhow,
Yeah, yeah. They are very spiritual beings. They're very down to earth, and you can get stepped on, bit, run over, kicked at any point in time. But because they have feelings just like we do, but they can really teach us about ourselves. In fact, I would almost say they're a mirror. If you approach a horse and you're anxious, afraid, and somebody says to you, you got to show them who's boss. I promise you that horse already knows who's boss. You don't have to act or say anything because they've learned to operate from their instinct level and from a non-verbal level and from, believe it or not, an energy level. I can't go into everything, but they can feel our heartbeat from, I think it's 20 or 30 feet away. And so, if you're nervous, your heart is beating faster, your rear end is like this, you're clenched, and they feel all of that. And so, they're a mirror of you. And that is why I think people discover they're so great in therapy. And there's a lengthy excerpt in my book about a place where I just felt led to go. And I had an amazing weekend, and the experience it just again defies, logic, physics, all the laws that we think we know. And it's amazing. And I have 3 horses now on the farm. We lost one in December, but just her interactions with them and the messages that they convey, it's really lovely, and it helps bring us into a state of calm and presence and awareness. Because if you don't, then somebody's going to get hurt, or you're going to miss something that you need to know.
Have you thought about running a retreat like the one? Because I did see that in your book, which is why I'm asking you these questions. But have you thought about doing that on your farm? Because it sounds like you
So,
have
yeah,
all
so
the
I
things.
do Airbnb, and one of the offerings is to work with me and my horses.
Oh, cool.
And I've literally had people tell me that it was the best day of their lives, and it's changed their life and stuff like that.
Wow.
But I'm not, I'm just doing what I'm doing. It's not like, oh, I went to some big class or whatever. I know my horses, and I know what they're saying about you, and I can help you find some awareness. And so that's really all it's about.
Well, which is really cool though, because the more that we're in touch with who we are as soul, as I like to say, right? The more we're in touch with who we really are, not who we pretend to be, not what
Mhm.
other people think we are, right? But who
Yeah.
we truly are, then the more we're going to open up to everything also, plus be able to energetically kind of mix with our loved ones in spirit.
Yeah.
So what else would you like to add? And then I
Yeah,
guess,
I'll only add, I know
sure.
people need to leave, but I'll just add 2 more things. One is in the back of the book, I provide a list of resources, and it's other people's books. And I apologize, I didn't know of yours at the
Oh,
time. Otherwise,
oh, no, no, don't
it
worry
may have
about
very
that.
well found its way in there. But there's music, there's music, there's videos, there's books in there.
Yeah,
And
I
then
see
all
this.
throughout the book, thank you, there
Okay.
are quotes and et cetera, et cetera. And that I think are genuinely helpful. And so, what I wanted to mention, folks, is if you are interested in sampling the book before you ever make a commitment to buy it, and it is not expensive by any means, you are welcome to go to my website, which is maryconaughtysullivan.com. And it's the way my name is spelled up in the Zoom, with a hyphen, and that's .com. And you will see a bar, and it says excerpt. And on that, there you go. Thank you. Yeah. And you can read first, I think, 12 or 13 pages of the book. If you like it, great. Go ahead and get it. I would love for you to read it. I'd love for you to pass it along. Um, so that is there for you. And then I want to offer the first 3 people that will go to the website and connect with me on the connect page. I will send you a free book. So you're going to just need to give me your address. I can send you one of the books.
Oh,
So
that's
go
so
on out there and have a look.
yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. There's a couple of thank you for offering that for our membership. Of course, everybody on the recording is going to hear that as well. So if you want that offer, I would take it before I put the recording out. Um, Lee is asking, where is your Airbnb? Because she's from North Carolina.
Wow, very good. And so if you go out to Airbnb and you look at Mount Pleasant, North Carolina, there is
Mount.
a Pleasant, South Carolina, but that will take you to the beach. I am in North Carolina, Pleasant, Mount Pleasant.
Okay, so just search for Mount Pleasant, and then how will we know?
Yeah, well, I'm looking at Debbie's
Oh,
question.
sorry, got
And
you.
yeah, and look at private horse farm, and it is out there.
Okay. All right. And then did Sandra says she had gone to a grief retreat with horses. It was amazing. Yep, they really, she said the horses take on your grief. And
Yeah,
when it
yeah.
gets to be too much, they'll lie on the ground and shake it off. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the one that I mentioned in my book literally shed tears with me, and in a way that makes me feel bad, but that guy was at liberty and he could leave at any time he wanted, and he chose to do the work with me. And so that relieves my guilt a little bit. But yeah, they are amazing, amazing
I
animals.
had that experience with a dog once, actually, in relationship to a family estrangement issue, and it was the last time I saw that family all together. I'm pretty yes, and I was a wreck, right? Because we knew what was happening. Anyhow, and this straight, I was sitting there and like trying not to cry, right? And my one granddaughter was like, Gana, what's wrong? And I'm like, nothing, whatever. And I'm just fighting back the tears. And this dog, this humongous dog that was not our dog, I don't know whose, just came up and like curled up next to me and like kept rubbing my leg and would not leave me. It's like this dog somehow from across the room, somewhere else in the building, we were in a climbing gym, um, found me and
Mhm.
came up to me. So and if it's anything like that, then
Yeah.
doing that with the horse in person would be way cool.
Yeah, yeah. Our
So,
animals are more amazing than we know, and
yeah.
we learn that, oh, we're the master of animals. Well, I kind of think that a lot of them know a whole hell of a lot more than we do about living and life, and so I feel all the respect in the world for all creatures.
Uh, Well, you're so interesting, Denise. Denise is our science member. I think of Denise as like really into all those things. She says she'd love to talk with you someday, so you guys can connect through the Transcending Denise Johnson, connect through the Transcending Grief group and talk further. So it's always fun
Yeah,
making
and
paths.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I know we need to close, but on the website, you can connect with me and then I write back to everyone and you will have my email address when I write back to you.
Good. Oh, perfect, Denise. There you go. Yes, wonderful. So, hope, healing, embrace the journey, listening for the whispers. I love how you say that. Embracing that concept that this was never not going to happen. So live up to your end of the bargain. I say the same thing, but using different words. And it's so true. And all of that has contributed toward, you said, I'm okay. I'm okay today. So it's all of those belief systems, all of the searching that you did, all of the leaning in that you did that helped you get to that point of, I'm okay, 14 years into the journey. But at what point in the journey would you say that you were okay?
Yeah, I talk about that in the book as well, but I can remember the first day that I felt a little bit of lightness. And it was, we were watching some movie with Denzel Washington, and I looked at my husband, I said, I feel like there's a little bit of a weight off my chest. I feel like today I could see the sun and I feel good watching the movie. And so it happened only a few weeks into the journey. And that's what I say is those rays of sun will come in and you don't have to like, okay, I embrace it and now I'm healed. I turned a corner. That is not what it's really like for most of us. But those little rays will come in. And in fact, a woman that spoke with Aaron after he passed, and I don't know what your beliefs are about that. I'm not sure what mine are, but she said to me, Aaron feels the rays of the sun and needs you to give that to him because although it's stunning where he is and beautiful, you don't feel the warmth like we do on Earth. This is a very tactile place that we
Yes,
live. And
yes.
so maybe that had something to do with me being able to see the sun or smell the air or hear a bird or, whatever.
That's
Little
so
by
interesting.
little.
I remember a medium told me once he was communicating with my mother, and he said she misses the wind on her face. She misses
Well,
the
there
wind.
you
I've never
go.
forgotten that. Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Mhm.
Those are the things that we take for granted, don't we, sometimes? That's why I hike and get out in the mountains. I'm like, let's all climb to the top of the mountain and hear the whispers. That's my takeaway. I'm going to go do
Yeah,
that tomorrow.
yeah.
I'm not climbing to the top of the mountain, but I want to. My soul wants to climb to the top of the mountain.
Right, right. Yeah.
Are you a hiker, a walker? Yeah, I'm obviously you're out
I
in nature.
ride. I ride horses. I walk the dogs every morning and I work out every morning, but my real passion is being on the horses and they can carry me to places I would never have been able to see on foot. And I just always, pat them and thank them for bearing me and going on those wonderful little journeys together.
Oh, I love that. And then you're really just one with nature, one with all, right? When you're one with your horse, one with your son, one with God, if you believe in God, one with all, right? One with your
Yeah,
soul. And
absolutely.
that is that sweet spot of we get it. We like in those moments we can understand everything and just really find that peace. And it's just that the more we do that, it's like I loved your analogy of the Christmas tree lights too. And the more we do that and we string together all these little moments until we're wrapped, our shawl, instead of being this heavy shroud of grief, our shawl becomes light and hope with all of these little things that we do. So,
Yeah, yes. And that's really my hope for each and every one of you and all the others out there that, are bearing the weight of grief.
yeah, yeah, because it is a heavy load to bear for sure, and it does take time to get to where we can carry it with grace. Well, we can carry it with grace at any time, right? Which clearly you did in the very beginning, way before I did. I'll admit, but yeah. Hey, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I'm just so thrilled to know you and know your story. You're a wonderful speaker, so please don't ever think that you're not or whatever. Yeah, I just
Thank you.
thoroughly enjoyed getting to know you. I hope you stay involved and active with Transcending
I
Grief and
will. I will.
contribute into the dialogue and post excerpts from your book. Susan Seck does that, and we do allow that. So as long as it's hopeful and healing, you may
Yeah.
post excerpts from your book, and we just don't allow sales. But other than that, we'd love to help you in any way we can, and we're so thrilled that you took your time to share your story with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. And I do.
Thanks to everybody who showed up today. We really appreciate it. And Susan, I'll get the recording. I'll send it to you so you have it for your own records if you want it for any reason. And then I'll post it in the group as well so that everybody, I know daytime is a little harder for people than evening. So they'll have lots of evenings to watch it. It'll be on the Transcending Grief YouTube. So, okay. Anybody have any final questions or comments for Mary? There's been some really great feedback here in the chat. So
You know
thank
what?
you
If
again.
you're able to capture and send it to me, and if there's emails in
Yes,
there, I'll reach out or I'll
yes,
IM people.
yes.
So,
They do send the chat, excuse me, separately in Zoom. So I'll send you that as
all
well.
right,
That's so
great.
kind of you to offer. Yeah, I'm the same way. I respond. I used to try to do every chat comment, but anyhow, Mary Connaughty, thank you so much. Again, her book, Nudges from the Other Side. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. And I wish you the best success with it. Get
Thank
back on that
you.
bestsellers list.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. All right. Bye,
Okay.
everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.